Because we are all tired of reading the same headlines of tragedy.
Yes, my people. And that's why we have this show here. We appreciate you taking the time out to listen. But at the same time, you can go to podbean.com, hit follow on Transition to Changes Mission podcast show. And therefore, you can hit rewind. You can download the app. And once you download that app, you mobile. And you can pull up this show at any time or any shows that we have. We have all the shows on there. Thank you for this. This is the 11th episode that we have done.
Thank you for listening.
And you always have the time and you always have the pleasure at your hands or wherever you at with that podbean.com app. So therefore, we'll touch up on some more little history to lead up to the present. And where we stopped off at is how change started incrementing with African Americans getting knowledge of learning how to read, learning laws, doing civil rights movements.
That's right.
And changing the atmosphere over here in America. Even over there in Africa, where Nelson Mandela, great king, that had a movement against apartheid that our country was going through, Africa. So over here in the nation, things started changing, moving up to speed. The civil rights movement started going on as we started getting more empowerment into the economy and to the workforce. Now, the reason why I was touching up on a little bit of the history of the feeling why I was explaining that to help people understand why there is racism. It's still the same thing that was going on in the Reconstruction era of America, which by the mind, a lot of people, you can pick up your Google or pick up any type of history book to read up on. A lot of things was incremented within the Reconstruction era. And within that Reconstruction era, it enforced, to me, my opinion, a lot more watchdogging, meaning to keep these free slaves in check, meaning they came up with different laws, the labor laws, the voting laws, which was the 15th Amendment that was established in 1870, not to be denied the right to vote. So as we start moving with time, racism started going undercover. They started establishing more watchdog names. Which one is familiar is the KKK. And a lot of people don't know that the police was formed to keep the intimidation upon the former slaves of the generations of that time. So if you keep that in mind, that will lead up to the present. Because don't it feels with among the African Americans are really complaining about, or we are seeing it now on TV, and I have experienced it personally in my life.
I have as well.
Of how racism is the same of when it was in Reconstruction times of America. They have the watchdogs on us. For the ones that don't understand why we say that racism is still alive and strong. One of the reasons that I say that it is strong, labor acts that was going on was upon what I feel, which is now in the modern day in the workforce. It's still a problem to this time right now. That was established back then in the Reconstruction era. But I feel that it has went more undercover of racism. One thing that I can say that throughout the President Trump era, I think for the ones that feel that hatred or still have that racism inside of them, I love the ones that is outgoing with it. Therefore, you will learn how to deal with that person. And sometimes you can always learn how to deal with people without being violent.
And right this moment, The world is confronting the harshest realities of a deeply unequal global landscape, in which economic woes, inequalities, and job insecurity have led to mass protests in both developed and undeveloping countries. Income disparities and a lack of opportunities are creating a vicious cycle of inequality, frustration, and discontent across generations. Systemic racism is a global problem. It is real, and there is a robust moral argument for addressing it. However, one factor that is often ignored in this critical conversation is the broader economic dimension, because it prevents people from making the most of their economic potential. Systemic racism carries significant economic costs. A less racist society can be an economically stronger one. Do you agree, King?
Yes, very much.
One of the consequences of inequality within societies is slower economic growth. In unequal societies with wide disparities in areas such as healthcare and education, people are more likely to remain trapped in poverty across several generations. That is why Transitional Change's mission is here. We want to bridge this communication because between countries, the difference in average incomes is reducing, with China and other Asian nations driving growth in the global economy. Nevertheless, there are still stark differences between the richest and poorest countries and regions. The average income in North America, for example, is 16 times higher than that of people in sub-Saharan Africa. South Africa is rich in a variety of minerals. In addition to diamonds and gold, the country also contains reserves of iron ore, platinum, manganese, chromium, copper, uranium, silver, beryllium, and titanium. Coal is another of South Africa's valuable mineral projects. 26 years after the end of apartheid, South Africa is, according to the World Bank calculations, the most unequal country on earth.
Wow. Unbelievable. But yes, that's why we say it's global. It has spread it globally from Africa to now. We came up with this show to hopefully influence a movement for change. Like my queen wife was explaining, it starts with communication. I even have looked at the media, have done some discussions among community leaders, individuals, and I hear all different types of solutions or hearing the examples of them going through racism situations. And I have seen and heard from city councilors or leaders, what is it that people want? Especially in these times of protests and riots after another king or queen gets shot down. Throughout that, I try to lean to say, which I'm going to go into indefinitely on another episode, but all this is basically a distraction.
Yeah.
To a bigger picture.
Right.
It is a serious issue that will be improved to make a change, will be written in history when it does. But there is something else going on that is a bigger picture, which we will go into later on into more series, but just stick with Transitional Change's mission, and we'll be obliged to talk about it with you. But as we move on, some of these solutions I try to come up with, not just to say that it's a distraction, try to explain to me how you would fix it. So I'm going to give my perspective of how I would fix it, or what is some of the solutions to this racism and unequal opportunity for the African American.
Okay, so the prevalent logic of the past 4 decades has been that stronger economic growth serves as the greatest antidote to inequality. Increasing the size of the pie means everyone has a bigger slice. For the most part, when we think about inequality, we think about income or wealth. but there are divisions beyond material standards of living, such as in health, education, and social mobility, as well as between gender, race, age, geography, and social groups. Countries should not try to address racism simply because it will help their economic development. It is a debt owed to their own citizens. However, the world should understand that commitment to respecting human rights and racial equity shouldn't be a passive statement of values. It should be a call to action, backed by active measures to acknowledge, understand, measure, and eradicate systematic racism. The world is at an inflection point right now with this pandemic, and it is up to our policymakers to meet the moment. If not, racism will continue to cost us all. And we don't want that for our future. Do you?
No. And that's why we are having this discussion to talk about some solutions. But I want to talk about to the people that what is it that they want? Why they is saying that it is racism? We just talked about a whole series of things that is going to be more in depth into some whole series of episodes that come up. We just started a movement of that. But to answer to that, explaining myself to the ones that is answer that question, pick up a book, Google, learn the history of African Americans.
Do your research.
And that will lead up to why we are saying we want a change. And frankly, I feel that we feel the pain of our ancestors. It's in our DNA, it's in our blood, it's in our bones. It's in our spirit. They talk to us every day. Give us guidance to where we're going in the future. Try to give guidance of moving forward with unconditional love. And yes, and have knowledge of the hardmanship of that. So, with the nonviolence, with it adding up to riots and protests, I would say to the ones that don't understand it, African Americans to this day is tired. The reason why I say that, when you read all that history, we have been conquered from Africa, been taken from Africa, sold by our people to the Europeans, put us in slavery. We was the southern mechanical arm of the finance institution that built America, which we was just giving examples of tobacco, cotton. Nobody didn't want to do that labor, but the African Americans was forced to do it with non-payment. At the end of the day, that led up to us coming out of it by your own people. The North was saying that was cruelty to the humans, even though they said we wasn't humans, wasn't fully humans. They said that African Americans was 3/4 of a human. We got that baggage of the past. We're not living on the past, but we feel the past. That hard labor. And sometimes that same hard labor, remember this, supervisor, when you see African Americans standing there and tired or standing on their feet in a location, how you come at them with that attitude, why you want to know why they explode, all that baggage is in that person up to today, which will leads up to modern day slavery, which we got an episode on that coming up. But yes, the solution to that is for the ones that's asking why we feel like that. We are tired, and we are demanding answers now. More and more African Americans in this nation is getting knowledge of some of the knowledge that I have given out on this episode. Enlighten me. I'm colorblind. I love to have more knowledge. I love it. It's just like food. And so I advocate to use TC Mission Speaks at gmail.com and write us and enlighten us. Let us know what you know. That is the movement of communication. Therefore, we can broadcast that. You can write and give how you disagree with what I'm saying or what Queen Summers is saying or what you like about what we're saying. But we love you and we advocate for everybody to be a part of this movement to stop racism. But yes, some of the solutions that we are talking